All right, very good. Let's call our meeting to order. Mr. Treasurer, would you please call the roll?
President Baker,
Present.
Mr. Brown,
Here.
Vice President Cole, Ms. Gibbs,
Here.
Ms. Hudson,
Here.
Mr. Preddy,
Here.
and Ms. Reyes. You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Very good. And if there's no objection, we can dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda that has been presented to us?
So moved.
And second. Moved and second. Mr. Treasurer?
President Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs,
Yes.
Ms. Hudson,
Yes.
Mr. Preddy.
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you very much. Now, we are going to move on to item 3, which is the engagement of outside legal counsel, and I'm going to call on Board Member Hudson, who has been working along with Mr. Brown and the Vice President on this process, and ask you to share with us what you have to share.
Well, thank you, and I want to acknowledge Board Member Brown and Vice President Cole for efforts along these lines. As we looked at the two proposals in the RFP from the Taft Law Firm, it allowed for either a monthly retainer amount or to work on an hourly basis. And so I think in our legislation, I'm looking to see, we've got option 1 would be the monthly retainer, which is at $7,500 per month. And we would, right now, the legislation we have would cap that right now at $45,000. If that went for a 6-month period. We have in the second option that would retain the Taft firm on an hourly basis at the rates that were set forth in their RFP, and that would, this legislation would cap that total at $30,000. So that would be, we would manage that at the hourly rate. They wouldn't get that unless they worked up to that point. So that would be that would be a sizable amount of work. So that's a legislation that's up for discussion. My personal suggestion would be that we go with option 2, which is the hourly rate, given our the schedule with the RFP and with the summer schedule as well. It would allow for the time that there's the search firm would be activated and looking for candidates, and prior to the time we would schedule interviews, we wouldn't be meeting. And so the meter would be off effectively. So it would allow for us to manage costs. It also includes the letter, and Board Member Brown worked on this, but the letter states that they would report to us as a board, and then, or to anyone if there's delegation. So if an individual board member has questions, we would ask to come to the board, raise that, and we'd go all at once, so that we're managing those costs and managing their time as well. So, Board Member Brown, any other?
And in terms of the paperwork, what I just handed to each of you is the waiver letter
Oh, yes.
that identifies several conflicts that the Taft firm has in its representation. The group is essentially, on the one hand, they represent a number of parties in real estate valuation issues, which would be adverse to us, and they will put a wall between those folks and our lawyers, so there wouldn't be any communication, and we would agree to that, and they would agree to that. They'll also have to disclose that to their other clients, just as they are with us. And then as to the Groveport-Madison issues, that too would be, they'd be walled off and separated. And the agreement is fairly routine, especially with larger firms that have lots of clients. And
Yeah, it is. It is
Yeah.
very routine.
yeah, and so there's nothing out of the ordinary there, and it takes care of any issues with respect to potential conflict. The other documents that I have are copies of the engagement letter itself. It's gone through a couple of different revisions, but this is the latest, prepared this afternoon. There are two versions of it, and before I give it, do you all want both versions? One is a flat rate version, the other one is the hourly.
And that would
version.
be option one on our legislation versus option two.
The only thing different between the two is the one paragraph that deals with the fees.
If you're recommending option 2, maybe you should just share option 2. I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that
If
as
the
well.
only difference is the dollars.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
and that was, in part, I didn't want to have too many out there that
Right.
confused people. So here's one, and
So is this option one?
That's option 2, right?
there,
Option 2?
there,
Which one's two, which one's one?
Thank you.
and there. You only have the hourly version.
I think you're one and the same, which is, I think they're both the same.
Got it.
I think you have the original, Shauna, so don't write on the original.
Ah, okay.
And save that one for this potential signature.
It says option one. I would like to see option two though, if you would just.
This is option 2, so that would be option 1.
Yeah.
So I have
Just so
no
I can
idea,
have
1 and 2, I'm just calling them flat rate and hourly.
Flat is the one and hourly is two.
Okay,
Yeah, put it all in my
I'm
phone.
easily confused. There's this other, and it's on the second page.
I do want to
Ms.
say
Hudson?
that thank you, President Baker, that on the conflict issue,
Mhm.
those issues were addressed in the RFP, just like the other firms did as well. They weren't in the detail, and we asked for that detail so that we would be very transparent, and that they would name the other attorneys. And so they will go through a series of other efforts internally. I speak from experience on that kind of thing, but that then allows us to know that the team we'll work with, they won't mix their files or mix or talk with anyone inside about what we're doing.
Great, so we'll have an
And I can
ethical
tell you-
wall or screen.
Yes.
Very
And,
good.
and with respect to getting the documents worked out and making sure we're all on the same page with this, they were wonderful to work with and very professional, and I think that bodes well for working going forward.
Excellent. Okay, so we have a recommendation from you, and that is that we, the board, would act affirmatively on item 3.2, which is option 2
Yes.
on our agenda. So is that a motion?
So I would move for approval of resolution 3.2.
Very good.
Option 2. we were-
Second.
Moved in second. Okay, is there discussion, board members?
Just
Okay.
thank you for the work. I mean, being thorough, transparent, fleshing all these things out. I'm pleased with moving at the flat rate. We want to make sure we have adequate representation, but I also want to make sure that we're being conscious of the taxpayer dollar and using that only when we need it. And we do have a big break in the summer. So I think it was very wise of us to go down that pathway. So thank you.
Okay.
Very good, and I want to acknowledge and thank Janika Pierce-Tucker for being here this evening live and in person, and Rita McNeil-Danish for being on the phone with us. And if there's nothing further on this item, Mr. Treasurer, would you note the arrival of the Vice President? Mr. Vice President, we're on item 3.2 on our agenda, and we are just about to approve option 2, outside legal counsel. This is a copy of it, and I know you've already seen this since we've been working with the other two. We're just about to vote on 3.2.
It would be the hourly.
If there's no further discussion, I'll ask the treasurer to call roll.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Peretti?
Yes.
President Baker?
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you very much. Let's move on then to item 3.3. So this is the actual amendment, the appropriations amendment. And so you have this before you, it's in your folder, and this will just allow us to spend up to the dollar amount listed in the appropriations resolution, and this is just an amendment that's required to allow us to expend these funds.
Okay.
So is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Item 3.3. Discussion, colleagues? Mr. Treasurer?
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Peretti?
Yes.
President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to item number 4. So we're talking about the search firm selection process, and so I'm going to call on Board Member Gibbs, who,
Yes.
as we all know, has been working diligently on the request for services for the search firm. The floor is yours, madam.
Yes, thank you, President Baker. And as I ask our independent counsel to join us at the table, and pass you a folder for you to start working on here. He'll pass that to Attorney Janika Chris. I, along with our subcommittee, Mr. Dominic Peretti and Ramona Reyes, have been working to fulfill our task of updating our RFP for the search firm services. We thank Dr. Tom Ball and Bill Reimer for their help and their guidance in getting your feedback and pulling it together in the draft that you see before you. This draft reflects the comments that you have been emailed, where we emailed the track changed version of everyone's input, and we think it best reflects a very concise but detailed list of what we seek to get from our new search firm, what we would like them to do, and most importantly, the arrangements and all of our players that we now have a part of our search. So this RFP talks about our independent counsel, it talks about our mediator, in sorts, in a roundabout way, but it really focuses on making sure they demonstrate their knowledge of the Ohio Sunshine Law and the public meeting requirements, and they know they'll be working with our independent legal counsel to do that. We plan to send this to the firms that responded before and some new firms that have been added. If you turn to page 2, we have an expected timeline that starts on tomorrow with a deadline of June 6th. We ask that we will, or a subcommittee will probably narrow down the presentations. If you remember before, there were about 7 or 8, and we narrowed them down to about 3 people to come to the board. So if you would like the subcommittee to take on that work, I think Board Member Peretti and Board Member Reyes will, I'm speaking for you, Amanda. See, that's not gonna show up. Yeah, we'll continue to.
She's volunteered.
Yeah, she's volunteered. Yeah, we will be more than happy to take a look at it and then recommend to the board a scaled down version of people that we actually want to interview. On June 12th, we're slated to do the formal presentations from the vendor, and that we select them, and that then the work begins, and just simply the work begins. And we know we'll need to find a new set of dates for us to meet, but we've been doing it 4 or 5 dates in advance, and we think we'll be able to do that. In the experience and qualifications, thank you, Board Member Brown, for your recommendations that I hope you see reflected in here. Some of them technical, but a lot about making sure that, thank you.
I've never seen Rhonda do that, but
No.
I've got my own role models.
Yeah, but we talk about their staffing, we talk about making sure they tell us about their strategy and methodology. In section D, their experience, a list of all current and pending contract for similar searches, which is what we want to know about. Who else are you going for, will you have time? And then everything else is very similar to the last one. The recruitment strategy, tell us about your screening process, and what is your plan to identify and recruit traditional and non-traditional candidates. And we know from the last search, we'll really pay attention to the outline of the cost proposal, how that payment fee is structured is what we'll be looking at, and all of their estimated expenses. We'll be happy that Dr. Reimer will be back with us, so all of the responses will go to the ESC as opposed to coming here, and they'll help us disseminate it. He's been amazing with drafts and copies and materials for us to review, and everyone will get a copy if you would like, if you wanna see everyone. And the subcommittee will take a review and narrow down, and offer to you some suggestions or recommendations of who we should see.
Very good, so.
Ready?
And just with your last point, what you were saying, at that deadline, we were looking at our deadline and when we would begin our work to narrow it down from the 6th through the 8th, as we get that, and it was kind of a quick turnaround, but maybe we can get some board members, get them to us, and that way we can use those comments as we narrow down the list of who we want to get.
Okay, and,
Well,
yes,
just one more, based on this, and me and Mr. Peretti went back and forth. He actually wanted June 11th, and I pushed for June 12th. June 12th has turned out to be a huge date for I Know I Can 30th anniversary. So,
So
Yes.
June 12th is?
June
Yes.
12th is huge, and so
Can we move? Yes, I'd like to.
if we can
We
check,
acknowledge them every year, it's a big deal.
it's their
Ms.
30th.
Gibbs, as you know, we do also have June 11th
Yes,
on our
that,
calendar.
oh, that was Mr. Peretti's initial
Yes,
date, and
that's already on our calendar, so.
we added some time just for the weekend, just to give time, but we may need to utilize the June 11th date.
I'm fine with that.
So.
Okay.
What time of the day would be,
The,
like,
the
it's-
evening,
It's set at 5:30 right now.
5:30
maybe we would do 5s, because we have some other events going on.
on June 11th. So if you give us, if we had June 11th on our calendar,
It is.
so, and we'll double check, but I think we'll use the June 11th date as opposed to this June 12th date.
Okay.
And other than that,
We'll make that quick change in the art.
yeah, we'll make this quick change. The subcommittee,
And we're saying
Was in-
5:30.
we said,
We said 5:30 originally, but.
Should we do 5?
Can we do
Too
5
much?
on the 11th?
Let me look.
Okay.
Me.
I would,
The subcommittee.
if I could, I would just ask, I would like to see the proposals, so I could, if I can,
Yes.
I'd like to comment.
Yeah,
on it.
yes,
absolutely.
yes, we'll
So
send
all
them
board,
to,
so as
we'll
we
send
get them on the 6th, we'll have the ESC sent out to everybody.
Yep.
And then we'll start the comment period, and then the subcommittee will get together through the weekend, and through the 6th through the weekend.
oh, you're with me for the weekend, Mr.
You know, it's
Peretti.
all good.
Yes,
I
So-
could start at 5. if-
Okay,
I
so
might
let's-
have to step out for a second.
okay,
Let's say June 11th at 5 then.
okay.
So we'll make that change to the request for services and to you and to Mr. Peretti, Ms. Reyes, thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
And thank you for everyone who provided feedback, and there was a lot of feedback as to the fact changes, the mock-up I saw. So this document that you have with you today, dated today, with the change of the date from June 12th to June 11th for the formal presentations from selected finalist vendors. That's the change. This is you provided, Ms. Gibbs, you provided this list of search firms. This is front and back. So that's who the RFP will go to. The other question I had was, we had talked about wanting to have Taft review the request for services before it went out.
Yes, TAP already has a copy of the RFP as well as the contract. Good. Yeah, it's efficient, and we'll begin those discussions formally around the conversation with our former firm, and that firm has been invited to reapply, so it doesn't stop anything, but that there will be a conversation moving forward as we asked with council.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. President, I would ask, I think, as for Taft's advice, then I think we should have, a session to talk about legal options
Yes.
around that. So that would be an executive session, but so we could talk through what are those options and our concerns.
And that's a separate
So we could get
discussion.
advice, so that would be a
Yes.
separate discussion.
Okay,
So if, I'm more than happy to speak with Ms. Chris Tucker and to talk about that, and we have 2 board meetings in June coming up. So we can tap an executive session on one that they feel most comfortable. She's given us a yes, so.
okay.
Yeah.
Just let me know when that date will be so we can get it on the agenda. Ms.
Okay.
Gibbs, thank you very much.
And
Yes, ma'am.
And
Ms.
I
Hudson?
would, in the meantime, I would ask maybe the board authorize Ms. Gibbs, just in the spirit of the engagement, authorize Ms. Gibbs to talk with the Taft folks and outline those issues, so she'd spend a little time on that, and then that would be brought back to us in that next session.
Any objection to that? So we've got consensus on that. Very good.
Thank you.
Welcome, Board Member Reyes. Mr.
Thank
Treasurer,
you.
please note the arrival of Board Member Reyes. We volunteered you for a bunch of stuff, boy.
Yeah. Why not?
You were already all in, I know.
And we look forward to the school end of school year picnic as well.
Thank you
Egg
for,
fight.
Add to my list to dos.
and thank you for your service. We thanked you in your absence, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know it's been difficult, hard work. We appreciate it. Anything else we need to talk about regarding a request for services that we're going to issue for search firm? Anything else we should take up on item 4? Okay.
One question,
Mr.
I'm
Brown.
sorry. It just noticed, and I know that I had forwarded names of other possible firms, but the first set are respondees to the original RFP, and I guess my question is, are there others that we sent the request to the first time that didn't respond that may be worthy of inclusion now?
This is the list that, when we sent it out to the whole wide world universe, actually responded. So
Right.
there are a lot more firms in the universe, but we only captured those that responded that were interested. As we send this out again, it's gonna go back out to the universe. But now it has your particular suggestions in addition to the people before for a targeted
Okay.
communication, because we have their information. But if we
Yeah.
use the same, we send it out to our networks, school magazines, a wide universe of people, and then we can't really control who responds. But the additional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people will now get it.
And people are aware, we've already started to receive things from search
Yes.
firms. which
The whole world
The
is
whole
aware.
world is
of the-
aware.
I'll pass those to Ms. Gibbs.
The whole world is aware, so we'll send it out again and look forward to it. And we'll look forward to reading all 14 or 15 proposals, won't we? And really look through them.
So, Mr. Baker, would be able
Yes,
to
Dr.
provide a
Tombaugh.
complete list initially to me, so we can send it out to everybody you want to send to.
Yes, we'll do.
I'll ask you to liaise with Ms. Gibbs on that.
Okay, thank you, okay.
Thanks.
All right, if there's nothing else on item 4 from anyone, let's move on to item 5. I think we've already discussed next steps. We have dates, as you know, planned already for upcoming meetings. And you should have the 29th of May on your calendar at 5:30, the 11th of June, which will now be at 5, June 12th at 5:30. We also have 18th of June at 5:30 on our calendars.
Can you go over those one more time? Are these all captured in this document? Okay.
Yes, yes, they are in that or another, which I sent you on May
Yeah.
16th, so you should have all those.
What time is the 29th again?
It is 5:30.
5:30?
That's to close the books.
That's what it says here.
Is that
Oh,
close?
that's right, that's just,
We captured
no,
that.
no, it isn't.
29th, I have it on my calendar.
Oh, is it for close the books then?
29th? No, that's May 29th.
May 29th.
Yeah,
May
That's
29th.
next Tuesday.
May
Next
20th, that's
Tuesday.
right.
The close the books is on, that's the end of.
That's the
Yeah,
end of
that's
June.
a
Do we-
different meeting.
Do we foresee needing May 29th?
Well, that is a week hence, so what will we have to discuss on May 29th?
Yeah,
That's a great,
I thought it was initially just a whole date.
You're capturing it.
Right.
ahead
So
of
we're
time.
trying to get as many
I just wanted to be
dates on our
sure
calendars.
at
We're
the
moving, that's
time.
good. I'm glad
Yeah.
that's-
If,
And we're gonna have Bill Furlick available.
Professor Froelich, yes, he will be here. He's available
Yeah.
29th, he's available the rest of those dates, as is Dr. Reiner.
but having moved so efficiently with onboarding all of our team, and we'll have an update, but
Yeah. Go ahead.
Ms. Hudson?
I was gonna say, so perhaps we could use this one to get the feedback on search firm issues. And then, so that could keep moving. And then, because we'll
Okay.
probably have a sizable agenda on the 5th of our regular business.
Correct.
Right.
So that we aren't trying to pack all that
Yeah,
in there
that's a good
too.
one.
So why don't we
Okay.
use the 29th then to have that discussion that we talked about having related
Right.
to the previous firm?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also if they have any other general advice
In
for
executive
us,
session.
then we would
Yeah.
be able to cover that, just meetings, et cetera, so.
Anything else that we should, other than that you
On the
think we should cover?
29th, it might be,
That's
I don't know that it's too soon. It might be an appropriate time to hear from ESC and talk among ourselves a bit on the substance of the search and address obstacles, if any, address how do we ensure the best possible pool of candidates and have some
Mr.
conversations
Brown,
like that.
so do we want to do that
Prior to
prior to having
firm.
the search firm
No.
on board? I'm just
We do
posing a
not.
question.
I'm not sure, and that's why I
Let's think about
wanted
it.
to bring it up and
We'll
give
be
that
here,
some thought.
Ms. Hudson?
Maybe, perhaps, in addition to, meeting with legal counsel, going over sort of logistics as we move forward and, search firm issues, perhaps we could maybe just do a touch base of where are we so far and get from the ESC's perspective, and, so we could call that a little more general of a quick status check-in.
Okay.
Okay, that's easy to do.
And then we could just get out early,
Right.
you know?
We wouldn't have to, well, we don't have to, delay, but I think again, we'll all be fresh and then we aren't, because that meeting in the beginning of June is always, those are
It's
always,
mine,
our treasurer keeps us quite busy, so.
yeah.
Well, and there will
It's the
be-
day before we start
Don't blame it on
graduation.
him.
I only have one item on the June 5th.
Oh, all
The
right.
chair hasn't
Alright.
recognized you, sir.
Uh,
Mr. Treasurer?
I have nothing.
Thank you, perfect. We do have a lot from facilities and
Well, I have that.
Mr. Olam's shop on that
Did you
day.
go with the-
So anything else on next steps? Okay, so I want to thank Taft Firm representatives for being here. I want to thank Dr. Tombaugh for being here. I want to thank all of you for taking time out from a beautiful day to be here with us. If there's nothing else, then I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Hudson. And Mr. Treasurer, if you're prepared, you may call the roll.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
This is the one you
President
would
Baker?
sign.
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We stand adjourned.